We are live. This is Pitchdeckasia. These two gentlemen in the studio. We have Anik and Aman from Josudo. My name's Graham Brown. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure having you.
Let's get it out the way. Josudo, what does it mean?
It's actually a made-up word. So Josu in Japanese, it means skillful.
Yeah, now I get it.
Yeah.
Josu.
Yeah. And do is kind of like the art of, like, you know, Bushido, the art
Judo,
of this. Yeah, exactly. So we kind of mashed it up, and the
art of being skillful.
Exactly.
You played me. You knew all along, right?
And the deciding part was we got .com for it. So instantly
awesome.
like go for it.
Yeah, basically we were able to get domains for all countries. So
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. So Josudo, welcome. We're going to talk about the Josudo journey, as well as the journey of you two chaps and how you got to this place, where you go from here. Esports as well, which obviously we have a vested interest in esports here in Asia Tech Podcast Studio. We run an esports show with Andy, and you've already been on the show. If somebody sees a familiar face sitting there, and then they may have seen you on the show, right? So maybe we can talk and define esports first as well, because let's put this into context. I think, obviously, if you're passionate about esports, it's hard sometimes to remember that a lot of people outside of esports world don't even know what it is.
Right.
So let's sort of go there, define what it is, market size, why it's interesting now rather than 10 years ago, and also how it differs from gaming, which more people will be sort of familiar with, SEA games, Southeast Asian games coming up and so on.
Yeah.
Can you define esports first? Who's going to have a go at this?
Go for it.
So esports, the E basically stands for electronic.
Right.
So it's basically gaming competitively, where you like actually compete with with a real person and you win prizes. So the earliest esports probably dates back to like probably 80s or late 80s or 90s, where there was one guy who was competing for Quake or something, and he got a Ferrari as a prize. Yeah. And then over time, like, you know, since probably the early 2000s, like there has been esports happening on a very fragmented level, but mainly in the European and American scenes. Yeah, it's probably like, you know, like since
early 2000s, 2010s, when it started to become more mainstream, and primarily because of like, so any sports is driven by viewership and sponsorship. These are the two things. And somewhere around late 2010s, things like Twitch and YouTube became big, and at that time basically people were watching their favorite players play a lot of games, and then basically this entire phenomena of esports came out to be, because there was a lot of money coming in. There were like top tier tournaments happening, and these guys in their late teens were becoming like millionaires
overnight. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about. You mentioned a lot of things, for example, like the tournaments and so on, the games. I read today, and would this count as esports? Fortnite, I think they've released the data on it, is the most successful game in terms of revenues ever. Would that count as esports? I mean, obviously the game is a game, but people playing it competitively?
Sure. Like, you know, the Epic last year, I think they announced that they'll have $100 million prize pool tournament throughout the year, like since like, you know,
Epic is the publisher
of Fortnite. Yeah.
Wow, how much money are these guys making if they can give away 100 million?
Off a like free game, they made $3 billion in profit
last year.
A free game.
Yes,
and a free game.
And that's basically like people exactly, and that's basically like people like purchasing in-game virtual items.
How does that compare to, say, Hollywood movies? I mean, $3 billion in profit is phenomenal in comparison to a movie. You know, and you know, they're giving it away free as well.
Exactly.
You know, it's, you know, there's a lot of comparisons often made between video games and Hollywood, and how much of a factor bigger video games are than Hollywood. But esports, I mean,
especially like, you know, last year I think esports surpassed every other entertainment media by a huge margin in terms of revenue.
Esports, not just games.
Esports, Okay. Like games in general. But like, you know, you have like Hollywood movies being like with this huge budgets, and then like you have these like freemium games that are like, you know, making huge amount of profits. So
phenomenal. I mean, obviously how they make money has a link also to what you're doing, you know, and the fact that now people realize there's money in it. Isn't just one guy winning a Ferrari. There's a whole industry emerging. And as I've seen with Andy's show as well, the real narrative is that we're moving from cottage industry to a fully professionalized industry. And I don't think many people appreciate this, but those people who play esports are not gamers but athletes. Is that the widely accepted term?
So it's happening with most countries slowly. So like a couple of weeks ago, China formally announced all their esports athletes is a career, and it's a professionally defined career path. And they coined the term athlete. So they are no longer gamers. They are esports athletes. US has already done it, and like a lot of other countries are following the suit. Korea has been like the market leader in these things anyways. So so it's happening all over the world. Every country is sort of formalizing, creating a structure around it.
And what does it mean to chaps like you? Are you athletes? What's your background in game? I mean, you must be passionate.
We seriously wish we were athletes.
We're nowhere close
in training.
Given the number of hours we have spent in the game itself.
Right. So let me ask you, what time do you stay up playing these games and competing? Because if I think of the other guys, like Andy and Sabir, who do the show, 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's nothing.
I've been there. Like, I've missed so many classes during my college. Like, I'd stay up like till 4 a.m.
It's all part of the plan.
Yes,
It's a greater plan that's happening.
All right. Is that what you said to your parents? They got that, did they?
No.
But I mean, these are conversations that happen. Is it's interesting that sort of professionalization of the industry, and also the training that goes with it, which we're going to talk about obviously with Josudo, that all those conversations that essentially kids when they were teens had with their parents, like I want to play games, I want to play esports and so on. Now that's evolving, isn't it? Now it's not like you're just wasting your time.
No,
this is a career,
not at all.
Right, for some people.
Now. I'll give you one example. Like last August in 2018, there was this tournament for the game Dota 2. And the total prize pool was $25 million. And the winners made $11.2 million. And of the winners, there was this one guy who just had professional experience for just 1 year. Before this, he was training to be a chef because that's what his parents wanted. But he then made the decision that, okay, I'm going to follow my dreams. And then he made probably like...
That's a brilliant story.
Like $2.5 million on his own. So you can actually like make money of this. And even like parents are realizing that, like universities, they're giving scholarships out for esports athletes to be part of the university esports teams. So, and like esports teams themselves, they're like raising huge amount of money. They're like trying to structure the whole thing, following like how traditional sports teams are structured.
Absolutely. You have team psychologists. You have effectively
nutritionists. Every sort of thing that you can imagine.
Right.
They are having those structures.
You would associate with a Premier League football club.
These are the top tier teams actually, but all the others are following suit, and it's getting closer and closer to the traditional sports. Like as Anik said, like basically till now there was no support infrastructure. That's where we also came in.
Absolutely.
But like something like universities offering these sponsorship and scholarship and things to players, it just helps them get along. So you just are boosting them to the next level, similar to what happens in like football or soccer, anything, if you look at it.
And that's widely accepted. And I just think I was born 10 years, 20 years too early. They would have all paid off. All those hours wasted playing games.
So we wish we all could be there.
There you go. That's how it is. So so we're going to dive into the pitch deck. And now, so we've set up the scene, which is esports is growing very fast, especially here in Asia. And it's not a new phenomenon. It's been around for a long time, but it's now sort of putting these pieces into place of acceptance. Parents, industries, sponsors, IOC maybe, at least here in the region, Southeast Asia Games, it's all happening. With all of this, there comes a need for training as well, and becoming Josu, right? As we're going to go, and maybe we can start with the pitch deck and look at the numbers. And we've touched on the numbers, but the market size itself. If I can just jump forward to slide 9, and bear in mind some people are listening rather than watching this, so please be descriptive when we're talking about esports.
We're
going to go into Southeast Asia specifically in esports. How big is this market?
It's huge. Like in total, probably there are around 140 to 150 million gamers, and these are people like focusing on the esports titles, games that are played on a competitive level, not like Candy Crush or like the usual ones. No, that doesn't count yet, probably. But yeah, so these are gamers who are like playing these sort of titles, and what like something that like we have been through. We know the minds of these gamers is like they have the most passion and to like actually improve compared to someone who's like playing Candy Crush on his own.
Yeah.
So that's the that's our like main target market. Like we want to like go for these gamers who have this passion, who have this competitive energy to actually like improve and like probably beat their friends, or even like go down on a like a level, go down on a path to become a professional gamer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Another key thing to note, especially in Southeast Asia, is how big the mobile gaming is. So basically, because of it developing things, overall the Southeast Asia is a mobile-first economy in most sense. So there are like somewhere around 80 million gamers on mobile who are playing mobile esports. So like now a lot of publishers have realized, because these many people are playing on mobiles, they are creating esports titles for mobiles. Games like PUBG, Fortnite, Mobile Legends, these all are super big games on mobile being played across the world. And they are like, actually mobile gaming is increasing much more rapidly than PC gaming.
Right. Your data here, is that correct? In mobile, there's 84 million users compared to... 84 million gamers, right?
84 million gamers compared to 70 million gamers on PC and console. Yeah. And it's growing, the mobile market is growing at 30% as compared to 19% of PC.
A big part of that is markets like Indonesia as well.
And Vietnam.
Vietnam, of course, right. So... And the interesting thing, if you just look at the demographics of Southeast Asia as well, it's similar. Vietnam, particularly Indonesia, like 50% of the population is under 35. So, I mean, that by comparison to the rest of the world, these are aging populations in Europe and America. But you've got a very young, very mobile population.
Exactly.
And that leads to, obviously, adoption of these kind of services, but also more openness towards esports, maybe, and being an athlete and these kind of career choices as well. So that is where training comes in, right? So why... Maybe we can start with the problem. You do have a slide earlier on in the pitch deck. I want to ask, why do we need training, right? Because surely you can learn all this in your bedroom, surely. I know I'm being patronizing, right? But put me right here. So you've got the problem statement of the casual gamer. Explain to me a little bit who they are and what the problem is.
So a casual gamer is someone who probably spends 1 to 2 hours a day on a like probably online game. And he also spends a significant number of hours on videos, watching like Twitch streams or YouTube videos, or going through blogs and forums, reading through posts, or probably actively looking for coaches as well. So coaching in gaming is not really a new behavior. It has been there for a very long time, but in a very, very fragmented paid coaching.
Right.
Yeah, since the beginning of online competitive games. So basically the main problem is like you have all these resources like YouTube, Twitch streams, all these coaches on blogs and forums, but these are not really personalized. Oftentimes the YouTube videos won't be updated. And some of the times the coaches might be like actually scammers who would scam you of your money. So like the overall summary is there's a lack of a clear and efficient path if you want to get better at gaming. So that's where we come in, Josudo.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's before we go there and talk about the actual solution itself. So I can understand the problem a little bit better. Is the problem mainly with solutions available to casual gamers? I mean, you mentioned here as casual.
So right now the target is casual gamers. So that's why we were going for casual gamers. But overall, the entire support mechanism for anyone who wants to actually aspires to be a pro gamer, that is somewhat lacking. Like right now, if I want to become, let's say my ambition is to play in a pro team, I have no idea how to reach there.
Right.
So there's
a clear pathway.
There's a clear pathway. As compared, if you compare it to like a traditional sport, they're like, for example, football. There's like school academies, and like they're like proper universities program, and if you keep on moving from there, they're like you can actually reach, I have to make this, and then I have a shot at getting there.
Right. It's a whole ecosystem and
whole
onboarding
ecosystem.
of young talent from early on. So what do they say? I mean, what does a casual gamer say? I mean, for example, if I wanted to play for Liverpool, I'd go and join the Young Reds or whatever it is, the Red Devils, and I'd go through the system.
Yes.
Do casual gamers and these gamers say, for example, I want to become professional? Do I want to compete? I want to be ninja or whatever it is.
Sure.
Right? Is that what people are saying?
Probably like at a kids in there like 14 or 15 years of age.
Yeah.
So if for how this works right now is probably some pop stomper who's really good at normal casual games, and then he gets by luck noticed by someone who's involved in the esports scene, and then they scout him out and then onboard him.
Right.
So it's very inefficient.
It's immediacy as well. Like I happen to be here and see that person, know that person. It's quite random, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And that's how it works now.
A lot of the times
to a large extent.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, like these really top tier pro teams, they have some recruitment processes of their own where they get basically, as Anik was saying, like these 30-40 kids who are performing really well in online servers, and they brought them together, and then they have a sort of let's call it audition.
Yeah.
But it's still basically it's one-time performance. There's no tracking ability where you're seeing their performance grow over time, and another factor. Skill is one thing. There's basically another angle, which is the qualitative one, which is how good they are as a team.
Right, the stress testing of...
Stress testing.
It's quite a high-pressure environment, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, you put esports athletes together over a weekend.
And especially if you look at them, they are very young kids, essentially.
Right.
And a lot of people expect a lot of different things from these young kids, and often there's a lot of stress on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we go into the solution, is it mentally quite stressful obviously you do it for fun. Right. But with all of these things, if you're really into something, the fun becomes less important than just the challenge itself. I mean, whether it's sport or esports. And is it quite stressful for them, if you're competing as an athlete? Because it sounds like you get to play games and you win money.
It depends, basically what level you're playing at and how good you are regularly.
Yeah.
Obviously, so basically, if you're actually playing in the pro circuit, yes, it's similar to playing in pro circuit of any other game.
Yeah. Right.
It is stressful. It is demanding. You need to keep performing at a certain level constantly. Yeah. And if you fall below that, there are chances of you being traded away and things like that. So all these things come into picture as well. But if you're anyone below that level, it is still a lot for fun. People do play for fun. Even semi-pros, they actually pay for fun, and they want to get in the pro circuit, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's talk about the solution. Some great slides in your pitch deck here as well. We jump forward. So we have, there's 3 slides here, which I just want to start with. The Josudo solution, the personalized coaching, classes, video curriculum, leagues and tournaments. Yep. Okay, so all of that there. Maybe you can give us a top level view of it, and then we'll kind of work down through them.
Right. So what we want to do is to give you a complete e-learning solution, but for gaming. Yeah, and that would include personalized coaching. That would have 1-to-many classes. That would have video lessons like the one you see in Udemy or Udacity, and then leagues and tournament as a way to kind of assess whatever you have learned during all these lessons to actually test them out, whether you actually stand up to the par with your peers. So that's basically how we wanted to structure it, give them an end-to-end solution. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it is learning-based content. Is there sort of one-on-one mentoring as well? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just taking a video course on Udemy, right? You actually have one-to-one coaching, right?
Exactly. So that's where basically one-to-one coaching we believe is the best way you can learn. Obviously, there are certain issues with scaling and things like that comes in with because of it nature of being one-to-one. But we still want to keep it at the core. All our other sort of offerings are tied to one-to-one coaching.
Right.
So basically, if you look at one-to-many, which is a regular classroom, there is basically the same coach who's providing to a wider audience. Let's call it somewhere around 30 to 100 kids simultaneously. It could be physical or online. Yeah. And at the same time, the video courses are created by our coaches. Right. So if basically that could be an entry point as well. So if me as a viewer is looking at a course and like going through some Fortnite or Dota course, and then I realize, oh, this guy is really good. I can actually contact the guy and take a coaching lesson with him. At the same time, if I have smaller doubts or questions about certain play or something, I can ask them directly without taking a coaching lesson as well. So we keep that personal level always. Anywhere you go, there is a personal appeal to each and everything. So you can actually get these one of your famous community players and things like that, because every community has a famous player for each game and people know him. So you can actually get trained by these guys.
And for them, I imagine if you are an athlete who has maybe now dropped off the circuit for whatever reason, like you know, you've done that, you've had enough, or you just sort of dipped under the final team level. This is a great way to monetize your skills, because I imagine there's just a drop off now. If you drop out of a team, that's you're done probably now in the esports world, right? Unless it's all or nothing, really, isn't it, for sponsorship?
Yes, sponsorship definitely. So most of the time, like there's basically not just dropping off even before you get in. It's the same story about people who are just below the professional level and who are just after the professional level. These are players who are equally talented as the people in professional level. They have just not made it big, or they are just past their prime, and they know all the games and all the skills what is required to be there. The thing is, like right now what they try to do is like stay in the community, esports community, try to become casters, event organizers, be with companies who are working in the things like organizing tournaments and things like that. That's their main source of revenue. And they do streams and things like that. That's where we believe that we offer another way of these guys to monetize their skill set. They can actually teach the aspiring players, share their skill set, and help the next generation be better.
It's the same way, like, you know, if I want to, like, you know, probably get trained by Del Piero, like if he opens up, I would love to, like, you know, take a training session with him. So it's the same case with, like, you know, esports. If there is, like, you know, some player who has achieved quite a lot during his professional career, and now he's kind of like retired, still, like, you know, the star power is there for someone to, like, you know, like for people to be people to want to, like, you know, take coaching sessions or something like that. And it also, like, gives them an avenue to earn more money.
And if they enjoy it, then, you know, they can keep their hand in the game, literally, right?
Literally.
Well, let's talk about the numbers in terms of, for example, what are people willing to spend on this kind of product, and also what can a coach earn? I know it's early days, but just sort of so I can understand. You know, I think to put this into context as well is that people might think, you know, it's a free game, so how are you going to get people to pay? So we've already dealt with that with Fortnite. But people do spend a lot of money in-game buying, you know, like items and so on, and upgrading and all that kind of stuff. That's a huge industry. So people are spending billions. I don't know what that sort of in sort of game purchase market,
in-game
but
purchase.
that is massive, and I can't put a number on it, but I just know because I've got a son. And his son has spent a lot of money on this kind of stuff with my credit card. So I personally understand that they're willing to spend a lot of money on this stuff, right? So tell us a little bit about, for example, a course. How much does that cost? How much are people willing to pay? And also coaches, how much can they make out?
So for coaches, so the coaches are the ones setting their prices right now. We do advise them that for a coach of your skill and your caliber and your experience, you should like charge like in between this and that. So on average, a coaching session, which is an hour of class, it costs around $15 Sing.
1.5. That's quite a good value. It's quite cheap, isn't it? Really?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if they're enjoying it, though.
It's dependent on the market as well. But like for places like Singapore, Malaysia, or even Hong Kong, it's really like, you know, affordable. But for like, you know, places like Philippines and Indonesia, you kind of need to tweak that. So at this moment, we are taking a commission from the coaches side. It's 12.5% right now. We'll be like, you know, tweaking that as we go along. And then we have the video lessons as well, which is like kind of a subscription based. Like you pay a small subscription fee, and then it's all you can eat. And then one-to-many classes, it's almost like that, but like not as much as a coaching session. We haven't really started the one-to-many classes. That's something like, you know, we are thinking about and planning on. And the lastly is the leagues and tournaments, which is basically like it's free for the subscribers and registered users on Josudo, and a small participation fee for the rest of the people.
It sounds like with your model that if you can onboard somebody with anything, even if it's $5 of content, $10 of content, or a lesson, or however it is, then once they're in, they're in. Yeah. And then you can upsell all kinds of stuff, right? So your challenge now is to get people over the tripwire and get people into the $5 and $10, and then upsell the hundreds long term.
You actually hit the nail right on the head. That's basically our next target. That's what we wanted to do from the start. Basically, to build a community of gamers on Josudo. That's the first step. Basically, get them hooked, get them in. Each of these one-to-many video courses and leagues and tournaments, all of them are entry points. You can get in any way depending on your personal needs or your personal desires, however you feel the best. But once you're in, you can reach to different angles depending on where you are. And the next platform that we are actually actively building right now, we are including like a lot of gamification. So you can, more activities you do, the more in-game credits you win, and then you can spend those credits on different things. Basically, that helps them keep cycling in the same platform. Right. And plus these guys are playing these games anyways a lot of times. So basically, and since they are anyways playing the game, why not earn something out of it? So at the same time, you can do a lot of things, watch free credits for videos, get free credits for getting a coaching session and things like that.
Yeah. And can you trade those credits in the game? Would that be in
so
future?
Not really. So maybe in the future.
Right. I mean, you had like a publisher partner as well.
Partner as well. Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, great. I like the direction of where this is going. And I wonder, being not from the world of esports, that there must be a lot of communities out there for esports. And I imagine they're based around games more than, generic. So, there will be a Dota bulletin board probably, something very rudimentary and basic, and it has like hundreds of thousands of posts on it. So you're coming in and trying to build a community. How are you doing it differently? Do you have a hypothesis about how you see esports and the community building differently to other people that maybe people disagree with you about? Because I'm always curious about those, because often that question leads to how big this can really become.
So communities actually basically communities are different for different things. What our target is to build community for learning. That's our key thing. That's where basically we want to differentiate ourselves. Like basically we want to be a community where people are coming to learn anything. It's not, yes, there's a fun element because it's gaming in general, but primarily the objective of this community is to learn. And anyone who hears about Josudo community, they know, okay, you can go to learn about new games. There are like a lot of people going about creating communities in different ways. There are people who are creating communities of people who are actively spending in game. There are like different ways you can go about it. Our primary thing is to create a community of learning. And actually out there right now, there are not a lot of these communities which are there. Most of the time, like communities on Reddit and like other forums and things like that, they are just discussing about the game.
Right.
Yeah. Anything new comes up, any new game comes out, any new hero is released, any new map is released. They are just discussing about general stuff. Learning task is not that much. And we have been there. We wanted to get better at some point or the other, looking at blogs and forums and like about how to do that. But actually the content for that specific thing is not that easy to access.
Right, not structured.
No. It's not structured. Like you'll probably have to spend like a gazillion hours going through like hundreds of blogs and posts to actually get to the point that you have been searching for.
Hours. Absolutely. You don't have that time. You've got to play. You've got to compete, right?
Exactly. So and that's where the personalized coaching comes in. That instead of spending hundreds of hours, you get this coach and he gives you the solution within a couple of minutes.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So
it's not just like cheats and hacks, is it?
No.
It's most of these free to play games, it's very difficult to actually have like cheats and hacks. Right. People still do it. Like it's not impossible, but there are a lot of people are actively looking into making it better and stop these cheats and hacks, publishers. But to give the example of Anik, so I took one of the small coaching session with our coaches. It was a part of the onboarding process. that guy was like, basically, he showed me one tip which I would have never.
What's
ever
the game? Tell us.
Dota 2.
Dota.
So basically, one of
this
the
is like League of Legends, isn't it? Or
it's a MOBA game. Yes, it's similar to League of Legends.
So like a fantasy, Final Fantasy, or role-playing tape.
It's not role-playing. So basically, it has like a lot of characters. It's 5-on-5.
Okay. It's like
yeah. So basically, like there's a mechanism called stacking, ancient stacking. Like these are like neutral, which you can get for gold. So this guy was like, basically, I would have never imagined. He showed me a tip which could take you like just 30 seconds to do.
Right.
And I would have never ever understood that or get to that point ever in my life. Like seriously, it was like, it completely blew my mind. Like, oh, this is even possible. Exactly. And
that's awesome.
And you never see those things in like any stream or anything, because most of them are focused around entertainment.
Yeah.
Actually, these pro players would always know these things, but overall, like, because they have to be entertaining in their streams, they don't cover the learning aspect. They just try to be as funny, as hilarious, make plays which are like really flashy and people would enjoy.
Right. But the coaching is also very specific to you, though, isn't it? Because this is a one-on-one coaching rather than a lesson.
Yeah.
So
this was a one-on-one
you're saying, look, I'm here, I'm stuck.
Exactly.
I can't get past this point for whatever reason. That person say, look, you're missing this, and that's kind of what's happened, isn't it?
So so before the lesson, like the coach and the student, they would set the expectations right on both sides. Like, the student would say that I'm at this stage, these are the things I want to learn, this is the place that I want to go, like, after the lesson. And the coach probably like goes through a gameplay, actual replay of the game, of a game played by the student, and then he can like pinpoint the places. Okay, these are the places you screwed up, this is what you should have done, this is what you shouldn't have done, all those things.
Great. So let's do a thought experiment.
Sure.
I'm an esports enthusiast. I'm starting from zero because, as I've already demonstrated, I didn't really know I know Dota 2, and I've heard about it, but my categorization's a bit off base. So you can mock me if you like, right? But so if I was to play any game with you right now, you would kick my ass, right? So I'm not coming in with anything. Maybe Tetris, I could probably give you a good run for your money, but that was about it. Competitively terrible. So let's say I want to come in and I'm 15 years old, so I've got time on my side, and I want to get to the 25 million prize pool. I want to be one of those 11 million winners, $11 million winners, right? You can't obviously guarantee that for me, but you can get me up that ladder, that learning curve. I can go in, I can take lessons, which will get me up to step one. I can do the coaching to take it to next level, level 2. Then I can maybe probably even compete with you guys, right? How do you then take me to the next level? Because I'm not going to coach maybe for 5 years until I get a lot of experience, right? What do you do to get me up here? Because I need to get to the Southeast Asia Games, man, and I need to win money. So how can you help me now?
Probably 6 months is a bit of a short time to actually like make it into the SEA Games.
All right, let's do the next one.
Yeah, sure. But like if you're starting from zero, my advice is to go for the video lessons that we are like curating, because the coaching is not really meant for total beginners. It's like we are assuming that you have some idea of the game, and that where you were stuck, what you want to achieve after the coaching session.
Right.
Yeah. So the video lessons is just it just makes it easier for you to take the jump into the coaching. So once you're done with the video lessons, the basics of the game, you have played the game for a certain number of hours, and then you stagnate, you're not improving anymore. So that's when you take a coaching session. The coach can then identify the individual mistakes that you're making, the bad habits you might have you might have been subconsciously developing over time, and then he can suggest, okay, these are the things that you can improve. And as with any skills, it's not a one-off thing. That's something we suggest to all our students who are taking coaching session. You need to take it over a period of time. Imagine every week. It's the same way how you take
learning
probably
language.
Language, or you're taking piano lessons. So it can't be over just one lesson thing. So it has to be over a few lessons. That's when you actually see significant improvement.
So let's think about the journey here, and allow me to step outside esports a little bit. I am passionate about Ironman triathlon, which, like any endeavor, not many people understand, and you spend crazy amounts of money on it and time as well. So But it has a similar format. There's a lot of learning. There's coaching involved as well, like with any sort of sports, physical sports. Yeah, you sort of have those two stages, like the video lessons, you have all that, and then you know the books, you can buy those, and then the coaching, you can actually have coaches who are ex-athletes who are now sort of going back and, you know, adding back to the ecosystem and so on. And then the sort of the next stage after that is like the immersion, where it's like, okay, video lessons I spent $10, $20, $100 max on books and so on. Coaching I spent hundreds of dollars on, up to maybe $1,000. Right. The next stage is like when people are willing to spend thousands, and that is, for example, like I go to a training camp. You know, I go and there's like 12 of us, and we're with Ninja or whoever the equivalent is, right? Yeah. Like some of the people like from your ecosystem who are the top name athletes, who maybe a couple of years after they've peaked, right? But have real gravitas, and people want to be with them and hear their stories and learn from them. And people are willing to spend thousands here at this sort of stage. You know, that's where the athletes come from, the pros, because they'll come through that system. They could be young kids, or they could be like, you know, people sort of 20s, 30s and so on. What do we have there? Is that sort of work in progress? Because I think that's really where the real, you know, profit maximizer
So basically, like overall, in any sport, for us also, we have identified two primary buckets of users. So first is basically the casual gamers, which we are targeting right now, whose primary aim is to like beat their friends right now. That's what they are going for. That's what the primary objective is. The second bucket, which is smaller bucket, which is what you're referring to, which is like actually bigger paying power and everything. These are the players who actually want to be pros and have the capacity to be. So these are for them. We actually are right now in the process of creating for a boot camp. Anyways, we are working with Razer for that C Games. So we are working on creating a boot camp program. So that's basically where these guys, how we envision, basically imagine like a week-long boot camp where you come in, specifically how you said, like similar to that, basically get a couple of pro coaches and have a complete infrastructure there for these guys to like just ramp up their skills fast. And at the end of it, basically we run this program working with some pro team and things like that. And at the end of it, these guys have a shot of being recruited by these pro teams, at least being like in their junior team or team B or something like that, but have a chance of that, because that's the key thing. Like there should be something at the end of the road. You're improving, yes, but at the same time you need to have some outlet where you're actually seeing things work.
It's career progression, right?
Career progression, exactly. So that's something that we are actually working on actively. We are like talking to a lot of esports coaches who are working with teams. We are talking to a lot of people who are like actually traditional sports coaches, trying to create a proper structured boot camp, like how it works for in traditional sports and things like that. We are not there yet, but we will be there soon.
Great. I like to hear how that goes as well. But that's exciting. And I think as well, these two buckets you talk about complement each other a lot, because that boot camp will produce coaches. You know, they didn't get into the team, or, you know, they have now sort of put their, you know, their feet up, so to speak, or, you know, thrown in they've stopped the pro circuit, and they will go back into that. But they probably would have come through that boot camp as well. You're kind of also training that you're building a talent system, right?
Talent system, exactly. And it's a 360-degree ecosystem. So basically, like even through our tournaments, leagues and tournaments that we are having, so basically at the end, people who are winning, they're basically they are demonstrating that they are at a certain level, and they can actually teach people as well. So they can actually start monetizing their skills on that front as well. And they keep on like basically when they keep on winning, they actually like, so in esports, like any sport, basically like winning a tournament, winning an event is considered a good enough deal to have a, sort of your esports athlete's resume, so as to speak, that I won XYZ tournament. That's how you basically say that I'm actually have a past of winning tournaments. So this actually like boosts them up to get to the next level, next tournament, and keep going in that progression. And at the same time, prove to the people like, yes, I've won these things. I have the capacity of teaching you as well, and become a coach at the same time.
It's all verifiable. It's all there.
It's all there. Exactly.
Okay, I didn't just beat my mate and I was really good at it. It's like there, you won a tournament. Okay, talking of teams then, let's have a look at the pitch deck, because let's know a little bit about you as well and the team that you have with you. I'm just going to jump forward to slide 13, where you have the Josudo team. Jesus has been on the show, on the esports show already. So you have, tell me a little about your fourth person there. So obviously you two gentlemen, Anik Aman Alan, we don't know yet. Who is this person?
So Alan, hello. Well, we got introduced to him. I think December.
Somewhere mid-December.
Yeah. So he we wanted to get some advice and insights, and then we came to learn that he was part of C Group, which is the parent group of Garena. It's the biggest, probably the gaming company in Southeast Asia. So he knows the scene very well.
Right.
Yeah, and then he really liked our business, and we kind of it was an instant clicked. We clicked with each other pretty well. So we asked him if he wants to come on board as an advisor. And then he was he was on board, and he has been very helpful so far.
So one of the things, basically, our team is very complementary in skill set. All of us come from different backgrounds. All of us have different fortes. But overall, one key thing that was missing, the only thing that was sort of missing, was someone from the industry.
Yeah.
And that was basically an esports, especially in the publisher side and the game, and let's call it the business side, is a very close-knit community.
Yeah, and small as well. It's new by
it's
numbers.
New, and it's very close-knit. Basically, either you're in or you're out. And we didn't have that in. And Alan, basically being from that industry and having been there, he has all the connections in all the right places.
Okay, that's good. Good. So there are three of you co-founders.
Yes.
Did you all meet on the Antler program?
Yes.
What's the story there? Because we know Antler very well, and we've been there, and you chaps were, I think, I'm not sure you were there last time I went, but you graduated already, but that you were in the
the first cohort of Antler.
Right. Okay. Just to understand. But when we turned up the other time, there was, I think you had your standees there still. So
right.
You saw.
That's what I'm trying to remember now. So you still have a presence.
Yes.
You have a presence that still is at Antler. Tell us a little bit about how you met and how that all sort of came about.
Sure. So Antler is a startup generator. It's based in Singapore, and now they have opened up a lot of locations all across the world.
They're going great.
Yeah. So we were part of its first cohort that started last summer.
Yeah.
So they have this format that the first 2 months they brought in 65 of us, and then they just put us in a room and they were ideate.
Right.
You pair up and ideate. So we ourselves, the three co-founders, we are working on very different projects. I was working on something related to virtual reality and robotics. Aman was working on edutech. Jesus was working on sustainability, so very different things. But I think so at the end of that was during August when the international Dota 2 tournament was going on. So after every day, Aman and I would just sit around and watch the live streams.
Right.
Yeah. And then at
the sign was there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. We already know that here.
Basically, we used to nerd out a lot about that. Basically, these guys won, these guys lost.
So you were actually watching the tournaments,
yes.
right? Okay.
Live, actually when it was happening and things like that. So we were actually following
just playing it.
Exactly.
Right? That's next level.
We wish. Yes.
So and at one point also during the program we realized our ideas can't really go to that length.
Yeah.
So we kind of we were discussing why not do something related to esports, because we are already we know the space, we are passionate gamers, why not try something? So and then Jesus, he's also very much into gaming, probably not much on the esports, more onto the role-playing games. Yeah. So we got him on board as well, and then
we looked at the entire, let's call it the industry, where actually there's the missing links from us as a consumer standpoint. Basically we looked at what we would have liked to be there, which was sort of the missing thing. We looked at multiple things. So basically the biggest thing that stood out was compared to traditional sports, the entire support mechanism. There's no clear path to actually get better and get to the international level, let's call it that. So that was the thing that stood out at most clearly to us, and that's where we thought basically, yes, this is a place we can actually be and fit ourselves into, creating
it's good timing. I think you've got that perfect storm, haven't you? That esports is growing. We're here in Southeast Asia, and the money is moving into that market as well. That sort of professionalization of a cottage industry is a key thing, because even if you go back to the early days of coding, for example, now coding is a career for a lot of people, and people can make a lot of money out of it and do a lot with it. But when people started coding, it was not a career at all. It was few and far between. If you wanted to learn to write code, for example, you didn't have many options. But all that sort of fell into the place, and that becomes sort of institutionalized as well. So we've seen sort of shifts, like in the computer industry, home computer industry, professionalized, and look where it is now, right? Parallels here with esports as well. What started out as a fringe, now has become accepted as mainstream. You talked, for example, about acceptance at government level as well, and we're seeing, especially here in Asia, governments getting behind. China, obviously, I'm sure Singapore is following.
Malaysia, they allocated, I think, 10 million ringgit for developing the esports scene in Malaysia.
They are already building a esports arena, which I think is like almost complete. And Thai government actually gives out a lot of grants for esports companies who are actually creating and helping the community get together and help them. So
you know why though? I mean, they're going to win medals, right? I mean,
exactly.
I mean, Southeast Asia is not strong apart from badminton in any traditional sport, really. I mean, with all due respect, I mean, compared to, let's say, Australia, which has a fraction of the population, that's the challenge, right? But if they can win gold medals, like you think about the effect of somebody bringing home a gold medal, and they've invested all that money in that sort of system, they can say, like they do in the Olympics now, they concentrate very specifically on certain sports, don't they? And they invest a lot in just that sport, and everything else gets dropped. If they can kind of replicate that here and invest in esports, they produce winners. I mean, imagine what that's going to do for the future if you're the guy that brings home a gold medal.
Exactly.
You're a hero, right?
And if you look at it, like Southeast Asia actually is leading the trend in this thing. So Asian Games, that last year it was like basically the exhibition event for that. Esports was the exhibition event. This year, SEA Games, it is actually
official
a medal
event.
It'll be the main event soon, right?
It's the first anywhere in the world. So
and then there are talks about like putting it in the Olympics as well. So
there's a lot of debate going around.
Exactly.
But even the fact that is now a discussion is something. I mean, 10 years ago they would just laughed. Come on. But now it's like it's possible.
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll leave it there. The big question mark, but I think it's great where the direction of the industry is going and where you guys are as well. Tell us a little bit about your journey where you are, because bear in mind we're in March, so things change. So people may be watching this 6 months down the road. As are you raising funds at the moment? What's public?
Sure.
We are like raising our seed round right now. It's $1 million USD. What we are asking, and the main what we want to do with this money, it's to like develop a proper platform where like you can do this coaching session, you can have the best coaching session experience that you can have, better than anywhere else. So right now, the coaching session is taking place like through a few different platforms, like imagine Discord or Skype. So we want to bring the whole thing onto the the Josudo platform.
Basically make the entire user journey as seamless as possible, where they actually enjoy spending time on Josudo, like not just learning, basically not just actually taking a coaching lesson, they are actually doing more activities, watching videos, doing like in-game tasks, which earns them more and more stuff, participating in competitions. So basically creating a entire sticky platform where they're like doing activities which are leading to more activities.
Okay.
Yes. So that's basically, let's call it 33% of our, somewhere around 30% of our funding amount. Rest is, we are actually a B2C company, so we need to market a lot to actually scale faster. Somewhere around 1/3 is for marketing dollars, and the rest is for tournaments and operations.
Okay.
And how Southeast Asia is in general, you can't really paint it with just one paintbrush. We have to kind of custom make the solution that is suitable for each and every one of the countries. Example, I put about the pricing, which is suitable for probably consumers from Singapore and Malaysia, but for Philippines, we need a proper pricing, localized pricing for pricing, localized solution, localized language, payment gateways for each of the countries.
Good. Well, here we are at the early stages of the Josudo story. Where will you chaps be, and physically as well as where would you be in the journey of Josudo by the time that the Southeast Asia Games goes live, which is what, 6 months now?
So I think end of the year, November.
Okay, so that's 9 months or 8 months away. where are you going to be there yourselves physically, or are you going to watch it live stream? And then also, where will Josudo be at that point in your journey?
If things go right, we will be like the coaching partners in the SEA games, especially for at least for Dota 2, so the one of the medal events. So yes, so definitely we will like to be there, even if we are not, let's call it like, even if we are not somehow being there as a coaching partners, we will be there because that's our target market. These are the people who are actually participating, playing, and wanting to get better. So this is the right target for us, and definitely we would be there.
Excellent. I like to hear it. And I mean, every single person there is a potential lead, right? A potential customer, you know, whether they're a coach or somebody taking lessons and so on. And in terms of the journey from here on inwards, you know, do you rely on those sort of big events to? I mean, they're going to make a huge impact. I'm talking about generally in esports as well. You know, for verification, what's the word? Vindication for esports, or you in the esports industry feel like you've now made it mainstream? Do you need the Olympics to, you know, hold your head up and say I'm an esports athlete? Or where are we now with all of that? Because a lot of the people who may be watching this maybe first time introduced to your world, right? So they don't know how you think about it and how you think about the developments of Southeast Asia Games, the Olympics and so on. Does that sort of needed to get the big sort of like Coca-Colas and Mercedes sponsors into esports?
They're already doing it.
They're already doing it. Yes. So these sponsors are already there. Let's call it like basically getting mainstream. Why these events are important is primarily because to get it to each and every house. So these events are being like watched globally everywhere. So like, for example, SEA Games will do it for Southeast Asia, but somewhere someone who's sitting in South America won't be watching a SEA Game, but they will be watching an Olympics. So if you're sitting at home, then you'll realize, oh, wow, these are actually players. These are not just gamers who are sitting in their basement and just playing computer games. They are actually athletes who are putting in a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of energy into actually achieving things, which is very similar to a professional sport.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. You can't sort of look at it in as a secondary version of sports. You know, it might not be physical in the same way, but it's as stressful and it's
stressful. And actually like even physical, actually like all the top tier teams have actually a big physical element to it. They make sure that all their athletes are actually spending a decent amount of time physically training, so that their bodies are up to the task.
Well, that's no difference from say Formula One, right? I mean, you were just doing this, right, for like an hour, but literally, you know, the stress on the body is huge.
The body is crazy.
Well, I think this has been a fascinating conversation, gentlemen. And you know, the journey of Josudo, we're seeing it here, the beginnings, and also you in the context of esports as well, is going to be really interesting because this year will be a watershed year for esports. You know, 2020 is going to be very different. You know, we're going mainstream. Southeast Asia Games is going to have a big impact. People are going to bring home gold medals, and then governments are going to start pouring money into this, and all of that will just trickle down from the top. But there's a lot of grassroots coming up the other way as well. So, you know, when people look back on esports, you'll say, "Yeah, I was there, you know, before 2020. I was doing all that when it was still, you know,
before it was cool."
Before it was, exactly, when it was cool. Thank you so much for coming into the studio as well and sharing your journey with us today. You're going to be there at the event on the 20th.
Sure.
Right? So looking forward to, you know, introducing you to some of our angel investors as well. I'm sure they're going to be fascinated by what you're doing, especially, you know, from the ed tech angle of really what, you know, the learning side of what this is about as well. So that is Josudo, everybody. Anik and Aman, thank you for sharing your journey. Wishing you all the best and hope it goes really well for you.
Yeah, thank you for having us here. It was always a pleasure.
Yeah, see you at Southeast Asia Games.
See you there.
See you there.